Good morning, everybody. I was meeting with Jesus this morning like I always do, and the idea or the thought or phrase came to my heart and mind, which was treasure. And so my obvious go-to passage to study this morning was in the infamous Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus says, "Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, or where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourself treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal." Here it is. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. It's like, okay, Lord, I want to treasure Jesus. I want to treasure the King and his kingdom above all things. But obviously, the passage doesn't stop there. Then Jesus has this conversation about the eye as the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. If your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Okay, but look what comes next. No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So I began to think, man, if I'm not treasuring Jesus, then clearly because of, I think it was Luther who said that the human heart is so strong it has to worship something or grasp or give sort of ascribe worthiness and worth to something. And if it's not God, it's an idol. It's a cheap substitute, counterfeit. So I was thinking, okay, Lord, if we're not treasuring you, then we're probably not generous. So our eyes are unhealthy because we're grasping and grabbing and we're living out of the myth of scarcity where we are the ruler, we're the king, we're the master of our own kingdom. So everything depends on us. So we're exhausted, we're burnt out, we're stressed. The last thing we can be is generous and have healthy eyes that are full of light. And then if I'm not treasuring him, I'm not walking in a spirit of generosity, which is really in the very name of God, a generous, gracious, merciful, compassionate God. And that means obviously I have another master, and I can't serve two masters. My house is divided. So you see, treasuring Jesus is not just something for the super spiritually elite. It is a safeguard of having to be our own master, settling for a cheap, crummy, idol counterfeit to be our master and Lord. And so the reality is the passage doesn't stop there. Then it goes to the infamous do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more important than food, and the body more important than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the lilies of the field grow? They do not labor or spin. And yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today, and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things. And your heavenly Father knows that you need them, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all of these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So I've known this. Obviously, I memorized this passage when I was like 18 or 20 in college, but it came with fresh weightiness today. It started with treasuring. And then he's like, your eyes, what you're gazing at, what you're reaching for, what lies are you believing of scarcity? And then a divided heart, divided affection. You have another master besides Jesus. But the bummer, if we're not treasuring, then we're not generous. Our eyes are full of darkness and bodies full of, then we're serving a crummy counterfeit master. Then we miss out on God being our Father. Four words: who sees, who feeds, who knows, and who cares. It is a safeguard, friends, as we begin this new year, 2025, to set patterns and habits and rhythms where we're regularly saying, God, I want to treasure your son, Jesus, above all things. You see, here's the good news. If Jesus is your king, guess what? His Father is your Father. So all of those things, all of that anxious, fear-driven, worry-inspired energy to grasp, to reach, to fend for ourselves. All of those battles can meet their demise when we bend our hearts and bow our knees to the lordship and kingship of Jesus. If Jesus is your king, his father is your father. And then we can use all of that energy once that issue of treasuring, once that issue that he's the one our eyes are on, so our bodies are full of light. We're becoming generous and hospitable, just like our King Jesus is, who is gentle and lowly. Then regularly we're saying, Lord, no rival masters, no rival lords. We want to treasure you first and most. And then out of that, we're able to enter into life and the abundance of being governed by God the Father, who sees, who feeds, who knows, and who cares. And then we're free just to seek first the King and the kingdom. And the beauty is this, I got 3 S's today. It made me so happy for a new alliteration. When we surrender to the King and we spend all of our energy seeking after the King, then we're left to serve the King and his kingdom. And friends, there is no king like Jesus. So today, may all of our fears, all of our worries, all of our anxious thoughts, may they all be laid at the feet of King Jesus. And may you and I treasure Jesus first and most. And may he fill our bodies with his light, life, and love. Would all of those other crummy masters fall down at the feet of King Jesus, and may we find ourselves over and abundantly cared for, known, fed, and looked after by our good Father. And let's put all of our energy to seeking first the King and his kingdom as we surrender